Hi, welcome to the October first virtual reading featuring this month Amy Small-McKinney and Robert Carr. We were originally scheduled to have Chase Twitchell with us, but due to circumstances beyond her control, she can't be here today. So we're still going to have some great readers, both features and at the open mic. And we're going to start today with Amy Small-McKinney, who is one of those wonderful friends who I've met online and feel as though I've known for a long time. Amy's newest chapbook, One Day I Am a Field, which is wonderful, by the way, is now available from Glasslear Press. It was written during COVID and her husband's illness and dying. For the 2020 Virtual Associations of Writers and Writing Programs, she co-moderated an interactive discussion, Writing Through Grief and Loss, the intersection of social and personal grief during COVID. Her second full-length book of poems, Walking Toward Cranes, won the Cathara Book Prize, Glasslear 2016. Her poems have appeared in numerous journals, including American Poetry Review, Baltimore Review, Comstock Review, Illinois Review, Pedestal, Tiferet, Swim, among others, and are forthcoming in the Banyan Review. She's been a guest editor for Pedestal magazine and was also the 2011 Montgomery County Poet Laureate. Her poems have also been translated into Korean and Romanian, and her book reviews have appeared in journals like Prairie Schooner and Matter. She resides in Philadelphia, and unlike me, she's still there. Okay. Thank you, Amy, for coming today.
You're welcome. Shall I begin?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Robbie, and thank you to all of you for coming today and Saturday afternoon. What my bio doesn't tell you is the many years of rejections and how they continue, and that is part of it. That is the nature of this beast. But thank you for that's the good news you shared. I'm going to begin with a poem by Chase Twitchell, who could not be here today. I've never met Chase, but I know of her work very well. And this is called Hunger for Something, and it's from a 1998 book, The Snow Watcher. Sometimes I long to be the woodpile, cut apart trees soon to be smoke, or even the smoke itself. Sinewy, ghost of ash and air, sinewy ghost of ash and air, going wherever I want to, at least for a while. Neither inside nor out, neither lost nor home, no longer a shape or a name. I pass through all the broken windows of the world. It's not a wish for consciousness to end. It's not the appetite an army has for its own emptying heart, but a hunger to stand now and then, alone on the death grounds where the dogs of the self are feeding. And I apologize to Chase. I probably should have practiced that a few more times. Anyway, I'm going to start reading from my latest book, One Day I'm a Field. It's actually a chapbook, and I did write it during COVID. It begins with two quotes from other poets, one by Lizelle Mueller, and placed my grief in the mouth of language, the only thing that would grieve with me, and the other for Edward Hirsch. I did not know the work of mourning is like carrying a bag of cement up a mountain at night. So I'm going to begin with a poem from the book, and this is here it is, Noir. I must be nervous because I haven't had my pronunciation issues and aphasia for a while, so bear with me. Noir. My mother cried on her satin pillowcase. I never knew why. Want to move toward her wherever she is, ask what darkness she could not crawl out of. There are things I will never know, though she told me I didn't hold you enough, uncomfortable with touch. When my daughter was born, I held her as a cloud holds on to rain as long as it can. Now my love on spoonbill legs, ribs butting out against skin wafer thin, unlocks his mouth when he naps, speaking for words lost to him. The painter Pierre Soulages said, black is never the same, from morning to afternoon to night and morning again. Like my body, dressing and undressing in the dark. I put a hand over my eyes until light lifts me toward another body, its leaves falling from branches. It's ridiculous. We are not trees, though I want to be. And since skin on skin breaks open all sorrow, no, but turning away or fear of becoming him, I don't hold him enough. When no one is looking, I will walk into the painting, thick black shoots, unfastened trees in search of light. Thank you. During the pandemic, you are dying at home. Sparrows nibble at your blanket, dive in and out of the eaves of your mouth. Wings rimmed with tatting, tattooed beaks add color to an otherwise bland room. The hard-working birds will not speak to me yet. This is not the life I planned. Now the sky closes its doors and trees shrink into fetal positions. Your body shrinks. You forget where you are going. Your hospital bed tries to explain, you don't belong anymore. This is not the life we planned. We are breezeless, our windows won't open. I wait with the sparrows for a sign to kiss your confused mouth goodbye. You say, I'm moving 3 across, 3 down. What if my pee is poison? Amy, get me my shoes. This poem begins with a line from John Ashbery. Hallows. And when the hectic light leaches upward into rolls of dark cloud, when all I want is to shut the door or wear a mask to face it, all I want is to reveal what is inside. Not red leaves, this pandemic, a woman in love, but a sliver of autumn, one of its dreary days when leaves are soaked and scattered. One of the masked waiting for something, maybe All Hallows, which I know nothing about, except children and nightmares parade in floats or inside red wagons dragged by mothers or fathers. And like one of its leaves, hang on as though my life depends on it, when all I want is to rely on a small wagon of promise. I will fall, my darling, into my own arms, because you are not here. You are something like wind, something like the angel asking for treats, something like autumn air holding me up midair. Even now, this is a hard book for me to read. He died June 2020, and I wrote furiously, insanely, day and night, while I would run back and forth to his bed. It was like, yes, poetry saved my life. I never thought it would become a book or taken, and I'm grateful. This is called Love/Furious, and I wanted to be honest about some of the issues of caregiving. Not so cold that I want to stay indoors. Instead, that vacancy between fall and winter. The sidewalk here is crooked, broken, entire slices of cement missing. To walk, it is best to look down. I remember when I fell, my finger broken, my palm thickened with tangled branches that forced 2 fingers to bend as if looking away. Since he has died, I have awakened to a body broken, more damaged than I knew. The bones of my legs creak like floorboards. I can't find the body I knew before wipes, pills, to save him. Save him. I didn't hear my body ask me to look up, look at my mouth opposing itself, one side in a perpetual frown, the other still stupidly smiling. Why was the left side of my face shutting down, my eye closing, covering its lid, covering half of the pupil? I did not see it. Or is this the divide between seasons? A caregiver's sleepwalk, the I am and I can't. I didn't hear my body ask me to look down, notice the purple bruise on my calf, notice the heavy wood bed frame I walked into. I must have been helping him while he tried to stand. Or is this the divide? Loving, furious, afraid, furious. I wanted to pour myself into his spaces. I wanted to break from him like a rib. How many cells fit into love's nesting? Or is this a lie? Or rather, not the same truth for the woman, the I now sitting by a file cabinet, sorting through history, deciding what to shred, what to save. She listens to voicemail. I listen for his voice over and over. The last poem in the book is called Without. I could have gone on, but I needed to have this out of my hands in a way that I've never felt before. I needed to finish this particular book. Without. Where are you? Bird or air, clouds of ice crystals, or a random word like prayer repeated as I recheck a locked door. Want to believe in grass's greener edges before they dry, leftover busily fading smothered in egret snow. I am a blade of doubt, though I want to say, oh gorgeous. Want to say, if the next song is about love, I live another day. I'd like to read the title poem of the book. Robbie, I'm not watching my time. How am I doing? I'm okay?
I think so.
Okay. Just put up your hands if I'm not. I don't like being piggy.
I think you're okay. Maybe 1 or 2 more.
Okay, I don't like people who do that, poems.
Thank you so much for asking.
One day I am a field. Instantly, soundlessly, a meadow called bereft. One day, a hawk's meadow. Above, a red-tailed hawk fools me into thinking he's an eagle, flaps his wings wildly, then glides until I know, yes, it is you. What is remembered when blinded? Try to wake to the sun's flash of denial. The problem, I am grief's land. One day I am a hollow. One day a long depression of land, a hollow carved out close to a river. You return, bring me rain, carry it in your mouth as if I were a baby bird. You make many trips, squat beside me. There were never enough words between us. Before you leave, you cover me with birch bark. Say you are safe. What I want for you, to be a mountain bluebird escaping the blazing forest, or if you prefer, water running downhill, stretching into a river. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Amy. Thank you so much for that lovely set of poems.
Thank you.
Our next feature is Robert Carr. Robert is the author of Amaranth, published by Indolent Books, and The Unbuttoned Eye, published by, what is that? 3 Taos Press. His second full-length collection, The Heavy of Human Clouds, is forthcoming from the same press. Among other publications, his poetry appears in Lana Turner Journal, the Maine Review, the Massachusetts Review, and Shenandoah, selected by the Maine Writers and Publishers Alliance. He is the recipient of a 2022 artist residency at Munson Arts. Additional information can be found at his website. And I suppose I will have to put that up while he's reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Amy, for sharing those beautiful poems, and Robbie for hosting this event. Something that told me there was going to be an immediate connection with Amy, and I'm so moved with the poems you shared, and sorry for your loss. But and in that context, I've got it right here in my notes, and we didn't plan this. I've been very focused on the theme of survival in my work. And the poems I selected for today all tie in some way to the question of who we are without the other. The first poems I'll be reading are from my book, The Unbuttoned Eye. As some of you know, I come to poetry following a 30-year career in infectious disease response and public health, where my focus was on the HIV pandemic initially as a queer man. And these poems in The Unbuttoned Eye unpack those experiences. Sleeping apart. We were counseled to sleep in the same room, but knew our nightly absence would be missed. Sleeping apart, we practice listening through walls, wrap ourselves in sheets of different shade, turn toward whom we hope to find. Undisturbed, we reach open-fingered into tingle, touch unlit air, thrash and throw bedside lamps to the floor, daydream daylight sex in other rooms, on the dining table cleared of candlelight, in the attic, holding the chipped red paint on stairs. Every thought is citric. I found a small white tangerine. It's in my head, squeezed between what I perceive and what I call things. The smooth peel breaks to let light out. The stick, tricky Floridian fruit. I crack a smile when it shows me the corrected names of things. I thought my man was called a husband. It turns out he's the solid oak legs of a farm table. Everything I eat is served upon him. The thing I called a dog, the seedless heartbeat of our grown-up son who moved away. I've been walking more than usual lately, wander through the city asking, what are you? And what are you? I'm the mouthpiece of the tangerine. The center of small white flesh is heartless. That's why most people break it into segments, eat what they've missed a little at a time. This final poem from this collection is called First Anniversary, and it's the imagining of how to survive without the other. When you released my hand, your palm opened like a dry sponge suddenly soaked, swollen. I took the unsipped glass beside our bed and poured the water carefully into the blue chambers of an ice tray. I stored hardened cubes in the washcloth I used to soothe your sores, filled your running sock with amber rows of bottles that repeat your name. Unused oval tablets to ease your pain, roll slow seasons hidden in our drawer. You said, wait a year, it'll get better. Tonight, I've kept my promise. I marked the date, your calendar inside the cellar door. You wouldn't like this wet ring as year-old melting ice sweats glass staining our nightstand. Lying cool as winter sheets, I close my hand. You watch from the picture of you swimming. Beside the child-proof caps, I breathe relieved, the absent bleach of your empty sock. And finally, this poem that had special relevance for me in the context of the latest pandemic. And it harkens the time when friends and lovers and husbands in particular, but people with HIV in many cases were not able to be with the ones they lost because they were not considered family by hospital policy. Cage. Did your green eye look for my brown eye as your life, your unchecked watery shit ran out? Did you wonder where I was? Did your thumb slide the mortared groove of a cinder block wall, remembering through thick paint the living line of my jaw? Did your breath break, as mine does now, knowing you were wet? Alone, caged, not in my arms, not under my whispering hand, counting your ribs, slowing your heart. The next two poems are an exploration of my relationship to a miscarried brother. Colors of a miscarried brother. Color was an hour in the waiting room, cinder block, mint green, the pebbled texture, fingers followed between grade school cattle calls. The hospital ceiling was a peppered tile, the beige of bodies no longer living. The chairs were black. My brother sat in darkness behind my mother's eye. I breathed in the ochre of her kiss, but I couldn't see beyond swinging doors that opened to a throat, a silver morgue, a square door, safe gray, a draining to the floor of burnt umber and scarlet. The arrival. Is he really mine? Listen to my belly. You can hear him eating segments of an orange. Will I still get presents? Bruises to go with your bike. Rope swing spins in a snow globe of shaken things. What do we call him? Not brother. Call him shadow behind a summer sun. Can I tie a bow in his hair? He is cut short, but curls will always float like lashes in our eyes. When can we play? Roll his empty stroller, bounce it down basement stairs. Wait quietly for a giggle in the dark. And to close the reading, I have a couple short poems from the new collection, The Heavy of Human Clouds, which is forthcoming next year. There's a lot more focus on observation of nature and its interface with the human body. The shortest season. I gather scarabs from giant marigolds, white rugosa roses, copper-winged, iridescent headed, paired beads mate between bedsheet petals. Picked off like blackberries, life trembles, frantic between knuckles, rebellion in a closed fist. I drop beetles in a bowl of soapy water. The legs of jewels stop moving. This is the shortest season, imago, winged and bright and hungry. Banished from flowers. 1. I've lived contained by pestilence, yet bees move through my pelvis, honeycombed. In solitude, blood reverses course, artery becomes vein. 2. The essentials of survival grow in dirt beneath my nails, sacrificial radish, curled tendrils of slicing cuke. Have you searched compost in your loneliness? 3. On limpid days, I punch knots out the pine boards of my apiary, blurred by swarms, cerebral desire to be stung. With each day, reasons to wear clothes fall away. 4. Body. You're my tallest drink of nectar. I'll oil you down. Drink chlorine from cock, vitality bleached. Your sweat has let me know you're also frightened. 5. Under an outdoor shower, no one near. It's kind of sexy when my fingers slide through unprotected knuckle. I've made peace with swelling. My rings only removed when soaped. 6. I sort splinters from a crate of memorabilia. Breath droplets fall like promises from a mouth. Box cutters and buzz killers haunt in my containment. Unanswered prayers. A deer fly whispers in my eye. Clouds have stopped speaking and move in silent folds. Grass, that beaten child, looks upward into blue. Tomorrow I will mow, raise my chin, curse the closed-mouthed sky. And finally, my final poem for the reading is, I would like to dedicate this to Amy and her new book. I'm reminded of what I've forgotten. Squirrels scatter nut chunks from a giant hickory tree above the drive. Walking the dog, you remind me of little things I've failed to do. I hold a braided lead, you slip on bitter shell. Could you sweep this up, you have asked. The oven heated to 350 after dinner's done. You want this on? Bedroom windows as we leave the house. You want these open? Back door unlocked the morning after I'm home late. Could you do something about that? I answer, apparently not. I've learned a few things over years. The toilet seat is always down, the 3-ply paper over, not under. Lies have consequences and more than one chest beats. On our walk, you stoop to pick up shit. Fresh shaved head, spots of red on your fair scalp. I'll miss the reminders, so please don't die. I have never brushed a bath. Nothing will be swept. Meals will burn. Wind and rain will pour through every opening in the house. Glass picture frames exploding in the hall. My bleeding fist. The sink filled with coffee mugs. Rot in the fridge. Even my body will smell different if you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for both of you for those beautiful poems. And it's amazing how well you fit together. How it turned out that way. Oh, no accidents. There are no accidents. Okay. I feel as though we need a breather after that. But we have an open mic, and if possible, if you are reading at the open, if you're signed up already, because it seems to be full now, please read no more than 2 poems or 5 minutes, whichever comes first. And maybe if you could bring in a change of mood a little bit, that will help us over the hump of to get our breathing going again. But those were absolutely beautiful, stunning poems. And thank you so much to both of you. I'm always so pleased at these readings. Each one seems more wonderful than the one before. Our first reader on the open mic is Rosemary Dahl.
I thought I was the second one, but I'm prepared. And thank you both for those wonderful poems. I can only agree with Robbie. Mine doesn't take us completely out of nostalgia or sadness, but I'm reading from my forthcoming 7th book. I think it's the 7th, which will be available next year, early next year. And it's called Saudade. And that's a Portuguese word, which is not heimweh, it's not nostalgia, it's somewhere in between. And my lead poem is explaining, I hope, all the things saudade can mean. And the book is full of these different poems that mean different things. What is saudade? A moment that passed like a paler shade of spring, like the knowledge of an inevitability, the vague promise of repeat, the echo of something that never was, a butterfly wing that may have brushed your cheek, dreaming of indolence, expecting the first rains on dry fields, not quite hearing the last lark before the autumn winds, the first smell of snow, the never-ending final summer dance, softest touch of his hand on yours, the death of an infatuation, your evanescent youth, a strange bliss in your longing, fear of fulfillment, praying for the becalmed sea of inertia, celebration of absence. You carry a sharp, merciless switchblade made of stainless grief. And the next one is part of this collection, one of the moods that is encompassed in Saudade. Far from the desert, he writes to his mother. I write on a park bench in Liège. Think oasis, mother. 1,000 oases, all in one place. Wondering when you'll get this letter, wondering who will read it to you. I can see you, mother, walking beside the camel, flowing with the caravan. Tuareg walk with a dry wind. Free men, my people, Kel Tajilmast. I treasure grandfather's dagger made from finest Damascus steel. Work in a smelter right by a blast furnace. Think of the Saharan sun, mother. The desert prepared me for steel making. I learned that houses are the graves of the living, My skin has lost its blue, mother. I live in a house. Thank you.
Well, you're turning out those books. That's really amazing.
It's probably the last one. I don't know whether I go on. I'm getting old. Maybe I
Well,
should plant a few more trees. I don't know.
maybe both. Judy Cronenfeld, you're next.
I thought I was fourth, but whatever it is shall be.
Some people didn't show today.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I'll read one that's in a different mood that will take us away, but then I'm afraid I've been so moved by both of your poems, Robert and Amy, that I really have to read one that's more related than not to yours. So this is a very short poem. Going Outside, Southern California, April 19th, 2022, 10 a.m. Oh, close star, how gorgeous on this breeze-cool morning is your light. Everything rustling, turning in it, like a bird fluttering in a bath, throwing off sparks. Thankfulness rises in me for being laved in such magnificence and not living like a fish in an inky cave, useless eyes forever disabled, until I think, how can I know what it is like to swim eyeless in the tranquil blue, around and around as the water makes little lapping sounds against cave walls? And I'm happy just to be alive in this sun without comparison. Now to find the one that's a little bit more related to what came before. Okay. This poem just came out recently in Gyroscope Review. Let's see if I could use the wind phone. And there's an epigraph. Inside the phone box, there is an old black telephone, disconnected, that carries voices into the wind. People who have lost someone pick up the receiver to speak to the other side. Literary Hub, March 17th, 2021. I think I would feel shy with mom and dad, settled for decades in their gray subterranean country, wandering passageways in their no longer new shapes, permeable as vapor, whispering in their no longer new language, fainter than air rushing past my ears, and faltering now in the language we once shared. It might be easier to talk with my brother-in-law, only 3 years gone, to finally return his generous weekly calls, inquiring after each of the members of his brother's nuclear family, even the dogs. Perhaps I could be hearty with him, as if he were in for a brief hospital stay and coming home soon. But my questions would stick in my throat, as they do when I think of my uncles and aunts, my sister-in-law, my cousins and friends, all dispersed on the wind. Are you sleeping comfortably? Are you able to eat? Those who manage to use the wind phone must talk the way I talk to our living dogs, patting myself with words as I move through my day, on those rare occasions when you, my love, have traveled far from home. For my lunch, tuna on sourdough or cheese and tomato? Chime in, guys. But if you depart to forever before me, and silence buzzes like static in my ears, and the house fills with a viscous, invisible fog, I self-consciously push through, preternaturally alone. Your absolute absence will make all words withdraw.
I can't breathe. Okay. Our next person at the open mic is Margaret Duda. Margaret, are you still there? I saw you.
She's,
Okay,
There she is.
there she is.
here I am. I was going to read a poem about Dylan Thomas, but it's a little bit sad. So um, let's try one. I'm writing. I will have a book coming out next spring called "I Come from Immigrants," and my parents came from Hungary, and the book sort of follows their everyone's life from before they came here until the death of my husband, but that's far down the road. So let me start with one which I happen to like. It's called Fostering to Freedom, and it's about my mother in Hungary. For the first 4 months of her life, my mother, the product of a love affair between a Budapest governess and a Czech policeman who never told her he was married, languished in an orphanage until one day, Rosa, dark hair pulled into a bun, dressed like a simple countrywoman, set out on a yearly pilgrimage to the large Catholic orphanage after visiting her sister in Budapest. She slipped into a gray-walled room filled with white metal cribs and numerous sleeping children, each protected by a wooden cross hanging above their bed. Rosa and Joseph had already taken in 2 boys and a girl, all between 2 and 5. They were theirs now, children they could not conceive, but souls they could foster with love. Clothed in a black habit, an old nun entered the room, smiled at Rosa, then pointed to a 4-month-old, their newest arrival. Rosa insisted Joseph said they could take no more. The nun informed her the baby, my mother, could only be fostered because my grandmother bore her out of wedlock, then escaped to America, promising to send for the child as soon as she could. Rosa approached the iron crib with metal bars like a prison as my mother gazed up at her, then raised her tiny arms as if begging to be released and held. Leaning over the bed, Rosa drew her close. Nestled in her arms, the infant smiled and sighed. Rosa recognized a gift from God and hoped Joseph would understand. As the aging, decrepit train rattled and chugged its way across the great Hungarian plain, Rosa rubbed the infant's back and softly hummed a lullaby. In the village, the child became known for her intelligence and loving ways. Rosa prayed her real mother would forget her promise. But 17 years later, a ticket arrived to ship Mama, now called Margit, to America. Margit cried constantly, unwilling to leave the only mother she knew. Her heart breaking, Rosa reinforced her fledgling's natural instinct to fly off and fulfill her potential, convincing her that great prospects awaited her, as the ever-generous Rosa shared her gift with future generations. And that was my mom. And now we'll get something on a little bit lighter side. This was me at the age of 5, and this was me with my doll at the same age. And, the other one was published in Lotharian, and this one will be coming out in Silver Birch. It's called Dressed Alike. In 1946, Mama and I rode the train to Bridgeport on alternate weekends to see Papa, who had taken a new job. We would join him after I finished kindergarten. Gloria, my favorite doll, to whom I still spoke Hungarian, joined me on every trip to the city. Gloria resembled me with dark hair, softly curled on a wig of mohair, and realistic dark glass eyes that blinked. She had a composition head and limbs made of sawdust, glue, and cornstarch, attached to a soft, stuffed cloth torso. Mama decided we would surprise Papa for his birthday and sewed matching dresses of dark gold satin for Gloria and me on her treadle machine. Each dress had a wide gathered collar and puffy short sleeves, and we wore matching patent leather shoes. Mama called them our go-to-meeting outfits. Excitement started as soon as we took our padded seats on the train, and others passed us in the aisle. Women stopped to stare at us, and all took time to comment. "Oh, look, she is dressed like her doll. I love the matching dresses. You're a very lucky little girl to have such a clever mama. You and your doll are so pretty." Matching, lucky, clever. I soaked up the new words, asking Mama the meaning of each, as I slowly learned more English every weekend on the hissing train, bucking us forward on rapid stops. When we arrived, Papa was waiting on the platform. The door was opened, and Gloria and I ran into his arms. "You both look so pretty," Papa said. "I have a clever mama," I told him. Sorry. I'm dog sitting while my son's at the football game. "You both look so pretty," Papa said. "I have a clever mama," I told him, showing off new linguistic skills. "Yes, you do, Monsika," Papa agreed, smiling at my Mama with appreciation. And that's how I learned English.
Thank you. Our next reader is Gary Grossman.
Hi, Gary, wherever you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure I could completely escape the lessening light of autumn, but I always like to read new material. So these are two poems that I've just finished. This is called The Weight of the World. This poem is not about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This poem is not about starving children in Congo. This poem is not about global warming. This poem is not about increasing wildfires. This poem is not about immigrant children in jail. This poem is not about shortages of potable water. This poem is not about clear-cutting the Amazon rainforest. This poem is not about racism. This poem is about peeling back the borderlines of my heart, of grasping that doing something, anything, often is just enough. It's about eating both peanut butter cups in the package of life, because 2 is a prime number and therefore perfect. In 2 Common Era, Talmudic scholars wrote, "Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. It is not your duty to complete the task, nor are you free to abandon it." Every day I push down my boundaries, reminding myself that both Renoir and Cézanne painted by stitching together small squares of colored light. Thank you. And this second poem is called The Sisters. It is triple digits, even in California's coastal range. 2 miles of 4 done, as sweat salt doilies my chest. I reach the Sisters, 4 stunning bay laurels covering a sheltered nook. sisters who have churned the local air upside down and inside out, front to back and side to side, until oregano, thyme, and lavender glide in my nose and out my mouth. I smile, all haze and smog swept clean. Down the trail, my thoughts turn to the work these trees have done for 98 years, soothing my gasping breath, asking for so little in return. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. It's always nice to see you.
Always nice to be here.
Our next reader is Greg Bell.
Can
I
you
know
hear me
you're
now?
here. Yeah.
All right, there we go. As you know, Robbie, I am a little flummoxed by the way my computer is behaving, and I'm not finding. I had a Word program open, and I now do not see the poems that I had laid out to
What
read.
if I return to you?
All right, I'll do what I can to rectify the situation.
Okay. Thank you so much. So our next reader is Mark Petrie, and then we'll come back to Greg and try him again.
Okay, I hate to say this, but I'm changing my reading after the reading I heard today. I'm reading a poem that I haven't read in 30 years. And Amy, I just felt like I had to read this. I took care of my disabled stepfather for 17 years from the time I was 20 till I was 37. So this poem is called Jazz Notes. Then I'll read a short one afterwards that I hope will put people in a better mood. Practice hard to sound different. Normal people, disco soundtrack heads and matching outfits who do not care for the disabled, do not know how difficult breathing can be, or walking, or poverty. I look like them, but am different, a discordant, painful youth, reinforced by pain, watching my stepfather's trombone tarnish, notes fall, turn to tin, over 17 years before the last chord is played. My physical strength could not rehabilitate a twisted body. My notes could not hold a spirit to this earth. Slowly, so slowly, the music appeared in cool chords. Then with greater momentum, death riffs, jam, wailed. His spirit blew off. Blue notes in the hospital bed. The instrument blew one night, one last tortured wind. Left are the musical memory. Ross, the opposite of up is da, 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 down. Ross, the opposite of high is low, 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 low. Think, come back. Do you want to go for a walk? Let's go for a walk. Mary Shelley said, everything you love will die. Different to life, indifferent to death, different from them. And this is a very short, hopefully fun poem. A man climbed a mountain seeking an ancient river. He found only gravel pebbles, no water hyacinth. The frog has nowhere to leap.
That was it?
That's it. I told you it was really short.
You weren't kidding. Okay. So we'll return to Greg now. Were you able to yank up the poems? Can't hear you, Greg. I'll take that as a no. I'm sorry. Well, if, at the very last, if you suddenly get them, let me know, okay? All right. So our next
Robbie,
reader.
here we go.
Ah, yay, hooray.
For some reason, this Zoom disappears from my lower ribbon and it comes in and out. I did find the poems and now I can't reach them anymore. I'm astonished, but I'll bow out and I'll just be content to listen.
Okay.
Make your Zoom smaller. Go from full screen to part screen, and you will see your word at the bottom. You have full screen Zoom, I suppose, so that covers everything. Go to the right-hand corner and you
What's-
see little squares.
It should
What's-
say view. It should say view in the corner.
Yes.
And you push that.
Well, what's happened is that I've opened two different iterations of Word, and I can't find the other. I don't know how it happened, but I know that that's what's happened.
Well, perhaps if you could close the full screen, you could find it.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll come back to you. Meanwhile, Julene Weaver will read.
Thank you for adding me. I didn't think I was going to be added. Okay, I will read. Actually, I had one up from Verse Virtual that I will read if I can now find that. We'll go to the finding. Here it is. Okay. This was in June 2020, and I don't remember if it was my first one I had published there or not. The night of the stroke, and this fits in with the caregiving theme. Visiting my sister in Philly to meet my new nephew, adopted from Vietnam. My sister and I eat spaghetti with meat sauce. Mom and her new grandson rest upstairs. A crash and a thud crackle through the baby monitor. We find Mom on the floor. She waves her hand, shakes her head, no, but we call 911. I sit next to her on the bathroom floor, hold her hand. My sister sits with her new son. Emergency medics come fast, strap her to a mat. I whisper, she has schizophrenia, a fact my sister won't tell. But she rides alongside Mom in the ambulance. I finish my spaghetti, get a ride to the hospital with a neighbor. In ICU, a CT scan shows damage. She can't talk. There is concern about clots in her neck breaking loose. We notice a catheter up her urethra. Her heart beeps across a monitor. Our eyes watch the beat. A nurse asks about insurance, mentions complications, says Medicare won't cover complex care. Adamant, I demand a social worker. And I have one other I'll read from it's actually published in a book on creative writing and the imagination is the title of it. And it was an interview about poetry and included a poem that was in process. And the title is Bus Stop in San Antonio, First Night AWP Offsite. He says, I've been sent to test him, that he's a good person, so he will pass the test. That's good. The word schizophrenia lands in my brain. He says, I will act like I don't know what he's talking about. It's a test of his character. He reminds me he won't hurt me. People like you have cars. He's black, I'm white. He's right. I'm traveling, so I don't have a car. He asks, do you have a car at home? I do. He asks why I'm taking the bus. Reminds me he won't hurt me. I explain I lived in New York, the city. I'm used to public buses. I don't fit the expectation for a white woman with white hair, a tourist at a conference, to wait at a bus stop in any sprawling city. I'm not feeble, I say.
Dafür
Yes.
mi ora pausiallo. I have 5 in a row.
What?
Please mute yourself.
I'm not feeble, I say. He asks what that means. I don't need a walker. I motion to my feet, sturdy. But are they? I get leg cramps. Don't you have that? He puts his hand to his mouth, his other hand motions, pushing buttons. Uber, he says, or I pull out my phone, Lyft, then explain, I don't get data without Wi-Fi, so I take the bus or walk. Because I get texts, we look up the schedule. It's 8:48, the bus is due at 9:21. Agitated, he's already waited a half hour. Says he's been up since dawn at a construction job, heading to his sister's place for the night. Homeless, I'm glad you have a place to stay. We board the bus, sit a seat apart. He makes sure I get off at the right stop. We wave goodbye. I exit for the vegan cafe, healthy food, and a poetry reading. He travels on, safe for the night. Missing the last bus, I walk back to the hotel. People like me aren't expected to ride a bus, to walk the lonely streets, to meet those who provide the labor that builds our cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have complications. Someone who was on the list has come belatedly, but I'm going to have our ask Greg if he is ready to read.
Robbie, I think I got it sorted out.
All right.
Yes, I am ready to read. I say that, and I apparently not. I just opened the document that I had set aside and it's blank. So I will bow out and defer to the previous signee.
You're on the list. You should read.
I am flummoxed by my system. I don't know what I don't know where the documents have gone. Next time I'll have to have them printed up.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Our fearless leader, Jim, would like to read a poem. And I would love to hear him do that.
We're going to do something a little more lighthearted. And I think you'll recognize the source of this immediately if you have any familiarity with the Old Testament. The title of the poem is A Mess of Pottage. Yes, think Jacob, think Esau, hungry as hell and fainting for want of food, at the point of death, as the story goes. Myself, I sense hyperbole, though I've been hungry too more than once. Still, about to die, honestly, I think not. But here's the thing. My wife makes a red lentil soup with cauliflower and curry, an aroma of unspoken holiness that would entice pretty much anyone with a birthright to consider laying it on the table in exchange for a bowl, a spoon, some hearty bread, and of course, a mess of fresh red pottage. Hyperbole, you say? Taste it and tell me I'm wrong.
That's wonderful. And it makes me want to go make some lentil soup. That sounds good to me right now. Well, we have one person who was on the list and then she wasn't on the list. So Alexandra, do you still want to read?
Sure, yeah, I'm a bit confused because I did sign up.
I
to-
know Jim saw you, but by the time I looked at the list yesterday afternoon, you were not on it.
Oh, okay. And I signed up again, I think, just a while ago.
Don't know what happened.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I have, yeah, I know. I have to.
do you want me to read now?
Yes, but in the future, please don't come late. If you have
I'm
to come
sorry,
late,
yeah, I was in another, yeah, I had a prior engagement. So it was kind of, everything was clashing today. If you want me to read, okay, thanks. Anyway, this is Flying 11. Flying 11. When all I have is Earth's sun warming my horizons, sweet Psyche, tender wings fluttering anxiously, for it is the flight that matters, dragging my aging dreams, persevering in all kinds of weather, reaching heights of Icarus, heights of the supreme, each creation immortalizing mortality, keeping it alive. Creations blowing everywhere, through my eyelashes, through the skies. Flames and eyelashes becoming one, scorching our weaknesses, guiding lost souls. When all I have is a dandelion pappus to blow, seeds floating through the vortex to the cerulean ethers. For it is the flight that matters, chasing my windy wishes, releasing the nails of mental prisons, drifting breaths of nature, breaths of freedom, each ideal golden energy sent into pure light, ideals blowing everywhere through my heart, through the skies, zephyr and heart becoming one, subduing the ego to service the higher good. When all I have is efflorescence blooming in my garden, a farmer of senses cultivating the fruit of the gods. For it is the flight that matters, picking my deciduous emotions, turquoise showers reviving withered hopes, chanting priestesses of protection, priestesses of safekeeping, each inspiration soothing upheaval, melodious salvation, inspirations blowing everywhere through my mind, through the skies, incantations and mind becoming one, blessed with the power of flowing divine energy. When all I have is paper and pencil for some simple words, creating poetry between invisible gods and visible mortals, for it is the flight that matters, rekindling my courageous verse, grateful in defeat and victory, dressing ideas in armor, ideas in silk, each vision a sacred icon in my pilgrimage, visions blowing everywhere through my spirit, through the skies, matter and spirit becoming one, empowering our lives with universal fire. When all we have is the ray of a new dawn in a dewdrop, light triumphing, heralding a new beginning, for it is only the flight that matters. I'm very sorry when I came in, I wasn't muted and I interrupted the poet who was reading.
Thank you, Alexandra. I've just let in Mary, but our reading is done for this time. So I'm sorry, Mary, you must have had the time wrong. That happens with time zones sometimes. But I invite you again to join me. I'm going to be featuring in Cobalt reading on Tuesday, the 25th. If you want to read, the host has asked that you sign up with your own full name and RSVP me so I can tell him that to let you in. Because there's a ton of folks on that
I'm
reading.
so sorry. I must have gotten mixed up because of the East-West Coast thing.
Yeah, it happens. It's happened to me, believe me. Well, I don't have that link right now. I only had Amy's
okay.
chapbook.
I
Hi,
have.
Mary.
Hi, Robert, and everyone else. Amy.
I have taped this, so
Good.
it will be up for you to look at.
I'm truly.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording.